The champagne glass exploded against the marble floor like my family's world was about to. My brother Marcus stood frozen, watching bubbles fizz across the Grand Plaza Hotel's pristine ballroom floor. But the real shock wasn't the broken glass. It was the man walking straight toward me through the crowd of wedding guests. "Miss Wilson." James Harrison's voice cut through the elegant chatter. The CEO of Sterling Industries, my brother's company, was heading directly for me with a look of pure business respect. "I've been trying to reach you for weeks." I watched my brother's smug expression crumble. Just minutes ago, he'd been loudly telling wedding guests how his poor sister was still struggling at some tiny consulting firm while he was the youngest VP in Sterling Industries history. His new bride Jessica, the chairman's daughter, pressed her manicured fingers to her shocked mouth. "My name is Olivia. I'm 34 years old. And I'm about to reveal the billion-dollar secret that will destroy my family's carefully constructed reality forever." For 7 long years, I let them believe I was barely surviving. While they celebrated Marcus's every promotion, every achievement, every success handed to him on a silver platter, I was secretly building Aurora Consulting Group into one of the world's largest business advisory companies. I drove a modest Honda to family dinners, wore simple Target dresses, never corrected their patronizing assumptions. Why? Because I was waiting for just one person in my family to show genuine interest in my life, to ask how I was really doing, to care about my dreams instead of constantly obsessing over Marcus's next big break. That question never came. There was only ever Marcus. But tonight, at his wedding, surrounded by 200 guests in crystal chandeliers and designer gowns, my secret was about to explode like that champagne glass. "I'm confused," Harrison said, looking between Marcus and me. "Is this your brother's wedding?" "Yes," I replied calmly, watching the color drain from Marcus's face like water from a broken dam. "Your brother?" Harrison's eyebrows shot up. "But he told our board his sister worked at some small local firm." The ballroom went silent. Waiters froze mid-step. Conversations died mid-sentence. 200 pairs of eyes locked onto our little drama unfolding beneath the glittering lights. "That's what they all thought," I said, my voice carrying in the sudden stillness. I never corrected them. My mother materialized beside me, her nails digging into my arm. "Olivia, what is going on?" Before I could answer, Harrison continued, completely oblivious to the family meltdown happening around him. "Well, it's fortunate I found you here. As I mentioned in my emails, Sterling Industries is very interested in discussing the acquisition." "Acquisition?" Marcus's voice cracked like a teenage boy's. Harrison looked genuinely confused. "The Sterling Industries acquisition, of course. Aurora Consulting has been considering adding Sterling to our portfolio for months." He glanced at me, then back at my shell-shocked brother. "Surely your sister mentioned it." My mother's whisper was barely audible. "Aurora Consulting. The Aurora Consulting Group." "Yes, mother," I said gently, removing her death grip from my arm. "The company I founded 7 years ago. The one you said was unrealistic. And I should focus on something more suitable for a woman." My father pushed through the gathering crowd, his face red with confusion and growing panic. "Marcus, who is this man? What's happening?" "This," Marcus managed, his voice strangled, "is James Harrison, CEO of Sterling Industries." He swallowed hard. "Apparently, he knows Olivia." Harrison actually laughed. "Miss Wilson is one of the most influential business leaders in the country. Aurora Consulting Group employs over 2,000 consultants across 3 continents. We've been trying to get on her calendar for months." The silence that followed was so complete you could hear ice melting in abandoned cocktail glasses. I led my shell-shocked family and Harrison to a private conference room, leaving behind a ballroom buzzing with whispers and stunned guests. As the door closed, my father, ever the businessman, was the first to recover. "Olivia," he started, "why didn't you tell us? This is wonderful. We should celebrate." "Celebrate?" I laughed bitterly. Like you celebrated when I told you I wanted to start my own firm. When you said I was being unrealistic and needed to focus on something more suitable. He flinched. That was years ago. I was just concerned. Concerned enough to use my $50,000 savings to pay for Marcus's MBA. I interrupted. Money you never paid back because Marcus needs it more for his future. My mother sank into a chair like a deflated balloon. We didn't know. You didn't ask, I corrected. Not once in 7 years did any of you show enough interest in my career to discover that your struggling daughter was running one of the largest business advisory companies in the world. Marcus, leaning against the wall for support, finally found his voice. So, what happens now? With Sterling? Harrison cleared his throat awkwardly. That would be Miss Wilson's decision entirely. The room fell silent as the full implications hit them like a freight train. Aurora's offer to acquire Sterling, I explained calmly, is essentially a lifeline. Without it, Sterling will likely collapse within the year. Your position included Marcus. I had spent 4 months conducting extensive due diligence on Sterling's financials. The company was hemorrhaging money, propped up only by board connections and family wealth. Without Aurora's intervention, they had maybe 8 months before bankruptcy. You can't do this. Marcus exploded, desperation replacing shock. This is my life. My career. A career handed to you, I pointed out. Dad's connections got you in the door. Mom's jewelry paid for your MBA. My savings funded your 3 failed startup attempts before this. Jessica, who had been silent until now, turned to her new husband with dawning horror. Is that true? Your sister paid for everything. She's exaggerating, Marcus muttered, unable to meet her eyes. The check was written from my personal account, I said calmly. I have all the records. I watched Jessica's expression shift as she reassessed her new husband, perhaps realizing for the first time that his success wasn't entirely his own. Please, my father said, dropping to the persuasive tone he used in business negotiations. Let's be reasonable. We're family. Family. I laughed without humor. Family supports each other. Family listens. Family doesn't mock and dismiss and tear down dreams. You weren't family when I was struggling to build something from nothing. You don't get to claim family now that I'm successful. I checked my Rolex, a gift to myself when Aurora hit its first million in revenue. The Sterling board meeting is tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. I suggest you all prepare for significant changes. As I turned to leave, my mother's broken voice called out, Olivia, please. We made mistakes. We were so wrong about you. Can't we start over? I paused at the door, thinking of all the family dinners where they'd ignored my achievements. All the patronizing comments about my little job. All the years of feeling invisible in my own family. Starting over would mean forgetting the past, I said finally. And I don't want to forget. Those years taught me valuable lessons about self-reliance, determination, and believing in myself when no one else would. They made me who I am today. And who are you? My father asked softly. I'm the woman who built a billion-dollar empire while you were all too busy mocking her tiny firm to notice. I'm the CEO who's about to acquire the company you thought was the pinnacle of success. And I'm the daughter who finally stopped seeking your approval and found her own path instead. The silence that followed was heavy with realization and regret. The merger paperwork will be delivered tomorrow morning, I said. James, shall we discuss the details over dinner? As Harrison and I left the room, I caught one last glimpse of my family. They remained frozen in place, still processing the new reality that had shattered their perceptions like Marcus's champagne glass on the marble floor. The next morning, I walked into Sterling Industries' boardroom wearing a tailored black Armani suit that conveyed exactly what I was. Power, authority, success. No more hiding behind modest clothes and humble pretenses. 15 pairs of eyes followed me to the head of the mahogany table where James Harrison stood to greet me with genuine respect. Miss Wilson, thank you for joining us. Shall we begin the future of Sterling Industries? Through the glass walls, I could see my family in the waiting area. Marcus had collapsed into a chair, his head in his hands. My parents stood rigid, finally understanding the full scope of my influence and their complete miscalculation. The next hour was a masterclass in corporate restructuring. I laid out Aurora's comprehensive plans for Sterling Industries, department by department, position by position, future by future. By the end, several board members were nodding appreciatively, while others looked shell-shocked by the precision and scope of my vision. And finally, I concluded, we'll be implementing a complete overhaul of the management structure. No more positions based on family connections rather than actual competence and performance. After the meeting, Harrison approached me privately. Brilliant presentation as always. Though I have to ask, your brother's position, will it be handled fairly? If he's willing to work for it, there's a place for him, I assured him. Starting in entry-level sales. Same as anyone else would. Harrison nodded approvingly. You're more generous than many would be in your position. This isn't about revenge, I said, gathering my papers with satisfaction. It's about building something lasting, something real, something based on merit instead of family favoritism. When I walked out to the waiting area, my family was still there, looking somehow smaller and less intimidating than they'd seemed all those years when I was desperately seeking their approval. So that's it? Marcus asked quietly, his voice hollow with defeat. Everything changes just like that. Everything changed years ago, Marcus, I replied calmly. You just didn't notice because you were too busy looking down on me to see what I was actually building. I turned to my parents. The company will be sending over new employment contracts tomorrow. I suggest you all read them very carefully. Olivia, my mother stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. We were wrong about you. So incredibly wrong. Can't we please start over? I thought about all the family gatherings where they'd treated me like an afterthought. All the times they'd prioritized Marcus's mediocre ambitions over my world-changing dreams. All the years of feeling invisible, dismissed, and underestimated in my own family. But I also thought about my grandmother's advice, written in a note she'd left me years ago. Success isn't about who believes in you at the end. It's about believing in yourself from the beginning. I don't want to forget where I came from, I said finally. Those years of being underestimated taught me everything I needed to know about building something real. But maybe we can start building something new together. Something based on mutual respect instead of assumptions. That night, sitting in my penthouse office overlooking the city I'd conquered, I smiled thinking about how far I'd come from that overlooked daughter they'd written off as a failure. Marcus's wedding had been the turning point, but not the ending. The real work of rebuilding Sterling Industries, and possibly my family relationships, was just beginning. And somehow, that felt infinitely better than any revenge could have ever tasted. Because the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's succeeding so spectacularly that they have no choice but to finally see who you really are. 6 months later, Marcus called me crying. What he said next changed everything between us forever. But that's a story for another time.